Welcome to Grip Grind Glory, where grapplers train with purpose and grow through the grind. And now, your host, thought-provoker, and fellow grinder, Anna Janovics.
Hello, my friend, and welcome back to Grip Grind Glory. This is episode 18. Today, we are going to talk about late starters in Judo, which is very close to my heart, as you might know, that I've started late as well. These are people who didn't grow up on the mat, but somehow found their way to it later in life. And I'd like to have a look at what might have motivated them to do so. And if they haven't done so just yet, what might hold them back? It's going to be, from this point on, it's going to be slightly different because I'm going to launch a poll as well. I'm going to ask for your opinion. So if you listen to this episode and you'd like to let us know what has motivated you or what is keeping you back, then I'd really like you to do the poll as well. And one more announcement to make before we get started. You might have noticed that we've moved on to 2 weeks frequency, and that is because we're looking to engage more people from the community and do interviews and craft a little bit more in-depth episodes. And for that, and because there is quite a lot happening in the GGG HQ, this is what we can comfortably commit to. So we're going to be bi-weekly from this day onwards. I hope that's okay with all of you, my lovely friends. But let's dive in now and see what these people may or may not be thinking. So, as I said, that we're going to be talking about people who have started judo late. And if that's you, you're in good company, because I started as an adult at 38, 9, whatever it was. And plenty of people in our community did. But what I find fascinating is that there are clear reasons that pull us in, as in, identity, fitness, stress relief, belonging. And there are equally strong reasons that hold us back. That there is quite a long way between, considering it and actually trying it or joining. That, the reasons are, endless, but fear, time, money sometimes. There are many, many different reasons. So I want to break it down and to have a look at what actually motivates someone to walk into the dojo at 30, 40 or even 50, and what are the stories we tell ourselves that keep us out. And the important part is that, as I said in the intro, I don't want this to just be me talking. I'd like to make it a little bit more interactive. So I'll be putting up a poll on just below the episode on whichever platform you're using, either the Apple podcast or Spotify, and on socials as well, with some of these motivators and obstacles, so I can hear your side as well. Because, maybe your story is the one that helps someone else take the first step, or it might be completely different to what I'm going to be talking about. So what we find that the pull or the motivators are to start judo at a later age is, first of all, identity search. And it's in no particular order, because, I'm going to be talking about the physical challenge bit, mental reset, community. And I believe, for example, that community is I think is the biggest one for most people. But I have started with identity search because that's the other one. So there is no particular order to these motivators. There is this thing that happens as we get older. And if you're in your 20s, dear listener, you might not believe that it's going to come to you as well, but it will do. When, you're in your 30s or rather 40s, and suddenly you realize that work and family roles and all sorts of responsibilities have just eaten up your whole sense of self. And, you might be a mom, a dad, just a job title on your business card. And then there comes a point, I think, when you ask yourself, who am I really? And for a lot of late starters, judo becomes that missing identity. That's what they're looking for where they first come through the door. That, you get to say that I'm a judoka. You put on your gi and you actually feel like you belong somewhere, which is not your house or your workplace. And it's not about being the best or winning medals. It's about, being part of something that's yours, something that will, push you beyond your limits, and that reminds you that you're more than just your responsibilities. And there's the other bit, which is the physical challenge, which obviously is related to, in a way, to the body. People, they just get tired of treadmills and gyms, same weights, going through the motions in a gym on their own, maybe with a body. And they want a challenge that feels alive, where there are people they train with. And judo delivers that. You don't, just move a barbell, you move a resistant human being. And every throw. And there are those people as well who need a mental reset or some headspace, because people need these days something that switched their brains off, I believe. They're stressed, they're anxious, work, family, it's just too much, and it does pile up, I find. But, the second you bow in, you have to be present. If your mind drifts, you're flat on your back technically. And judo forces mindfulness without you even trying. It's like, to me, it's like a moving meditation. And I do remember my first few sessions that this, complete mental quiet I hadn't felt in years. I was exhausted and bruised, but clear-headed for the first time in a long while. And judo requires this of you. And as I said at the beginning, the fourth one on my list, which should have probably been the first one, is community and belonging. And that is, I find that people are longing for this kind of belonging, especially at a later age, at 30s, 40s. They, you don't go to school anymore, you only have your work colleagues, but if you're self-employed, you don't have that one either. You're only with your family and, some of your friends, because other friends have just, vanished from your life. So yes, adulthood can become quite lonely. And, there are parents, I'm sure, on the school ground, you're not too. But, how often do you feel like you truly belong anywhere? And a dojo gives you that tribe. People who cheer you when you get your first throw, or they laugh with you when you fall badly, or, they don't see you for your job or status, but for your effort and for your commitment and progress on the mat. I personally think this is one of the most underrated motivators for late starters, because we're all craving connection. It's an innate, need of us. And, there are those who have had this childhood dream, or maybe it wasn't even a dream. They used to go to judo, but they had to stop for, going to university, or they moved away or whatever. And they'd like to rekindle, but that's another, motivator maybe. But yeah, some of us didn't even have a chance. There was no club, anywhere near your house, or your parents just couldn't afford it, or you did something else, but you always wanted to try judo, and the time has come, and you can do that now. So just think about it. If you started, which of these was your why, or was it something completely different? Was it, a mental reason, physical, identity, community, or just, restarting technically. And if you're still thinking about it, which one resonates with you most? And so in the second part of this episode, I'm going to go through some of the, obstacles that might hold us back. First of all, which is a biggie, I believe, is fear of injury. I don't want to get hurt. And, that's a fair point, actually, because no one wants to. And, but the truth is, judo is built around safety. Before you learn to throw, you learn to fall, right? And break falls are literally lesson 1. And when you practice them, session after session, your body starts to protect itself automatically. It's not recklessness, it's just controlled risk. And that doesn't mean, obviously, that injuries don't ever happen. Of course they do. But the dojo is one of the safest places to learn how to use your body smartly, how to fall safely, and how to stay on the mat as long as you can. So, but it is a real fear of injury. And then there is ego, I believe, because it might even be bigger than fear of injury. Imagine that you walk into, a dojo full of kids and you're a grown adult and, you're standing next to kids who are better than you, who can just chuck you around. And, you standing there as a white belt when, your whole life was built around being competent is humbling and scary. And adults don't like to be beginners anymore because they were for a very long time, and then they got used to not being beginners. But the paradox here is that being a beginner actually means that you will improve faster, because every single class will be a progress. So it is very, it's very humbling at the beginning. It can seem scary, especially if you're not, partnering with kids, which you likely won't. But you will progress very fast at that stage. So that's the upside of it. And then the other reason might be, time and energy, because there's life and you have all the responsibilities and the family and work and the parents and whatever, and you just think, how on earth am I gonna fit the judo in even just once a week? But the truth is that even one class a week makes a difference, because it's not about the hours, it's about the consistency and your commitment. Showing up once a week for a year is 50 sessions. And that's 50 times you chose growth over excuses. And that's significant. That's a significant change in your life. And then there are myths and misconceptions. The likes of judo is only for kids, and judo as an adult is only for the competitors. And many people believe that. And they just can't relate. They don't see themselves in that image. And rightly so. But the reality is that the dojo is full of everyday people. I can tell you that because I'm one of them. And parents, teachers, office workers, whoever. No one is aiming for Olympic glory there. I mean, unless you go to I don't know, those kind of clubs. Most are aiming for personal glory, right? That's why we're called grip, grind and glory, because you have to start to get to the glory, and that's going to be your everyday glory. And then there is the final obstacle, which may or may not be an obstacle for you, but cost can feel like a barrier for a lot of people, actually. The gi, the classes, the membership. But first of all, judo is not the is not the highest priced martial art, unfortunately. And hey, compare it to a gym membership you never use. Or maybe you use it, it's the same sort of money, isn't it? Or your nights out, or your takeaways last week, or the streaming subscriptions. All right? Judo gives you something way deeper for that spend. You will get resilient, confident, fit, community, all sorts of stuff. So, yeah, these are my 5 obstacles. That I'm sure that there are way more than this. And I did feel some of these when I started. I felt humble and scared when I first stepped on the mat. Plus, I'm a woman and the dojo was full of guys, obviously. But none of it matters. Actually, none of these matters. Once you're on the mat, we're all equal. And, not a single soul cares how old you are, whether this is your first session. Are you willing to step forward? Are you willing to get committed and show up alongside them every single week? That's when you become part of the community. And so, you could even reframe these barriers, if you have this fear of injury, which I always do, if I'm honest. So I have to be very open about it. I didn't. And after my first session, I was like, oh my God, I just felt so bruised. And for weeks on end, I did. And I convinced myself that my body is learning a completely new thing. And so I was quite happy with it, and I still am. But obviously I had this shoulder injury, and then I broke my finger and blah, blah, blah. So I am a little bit more conscious. But also I'm so much more agile now that I could get injured anytime, obviously, any day. But I don't feel like I will. And you learn to land, to roll, to move on the mat properly. So you do become safer every single day, every single session. The ego bit, you have to think about it the way that every single black belt was once a beginner, and so there is no shame and there is no... I promise you, no one will care about, whether you're a beginner or not. They're just happy to have you there and, becoming a part of their community, and that's it. And, with the time commitment, it's, just cram into your week as many as you can or you feel comfortable with, and just keep showing up. Even just once a week is 60 minutes more than nothing. So, and then as you become more and more confident, you can increase the number of classes, I suppose. So, the money bit is, it's different for everyone, but think of it as investing in the one thing that, in yourself, really. And not just your body, but your mind as well, and your well-being, so maybe the better question isn't why start judo late, but it's why wait any longer. And it's really, once you start it, you will ask yourself the question, why didn't I start it sooner? It's so much fun and it's so challenging. It's really, I love it. And I always say, I started at the end of my 30s. I wish I had started it in my, in my childhood or in my teens. Right, so let's wrap it up. If you've been waiting for the perfect time, it doesn't exist. I have to tell you that. Sorry. for being the bearer of bad news. The perfect time is, when you decide to show up. And if you've already started, I want you to think back to your motivator. What got you onto the mat? And if you haven't yet, what's stopping you? That's what I'm going to pull in the poll today. Or tomorrow rather. What is it, Monday? Yeah, so on Tuesday, tomorrow. So just vote, comment, share your story. I really, really like to hear, different people, different stories. Because someone else out there is hesitating and your voice might be the push they need. You never know, right? So anyway, that was it for today, guys. There is a lot coming, just so you know. We're working in the background on some amazing stuff. We're coming out with our first apparel line, our first clothing line, as some might say. It's very, very exciting. I hope you will like it, guys. We're looking for feedback always, all the time. It's been a long time coming. So keep your eyes peeled. Sign up to our email list, and you'll be the first to know when we launch the line, but obviously we will shout about it as usual. I'll be back in 2 weeks now. Don't forget that, okay? Just managing expectations. And until then, let's grip, grind, and glory. Bye!